Spoiler alert! This video contains story spoilers, so if you like going in blind, seriously stop watching YouTube videos about this game. Just know that if you like games that combine shooting, puzzle solving, hard work and mild jump scares, go and buy it. If you're looking for an out and out shooter, you may want to think twice. So either stab that pause button or carry on watching this crap. This is your last opportunity to make a sensible life choice. Don't fuck it up. I'm mostly going to use early game footage that is as boring as fuck, because I don't want to spoil the immersion of the game for you. This game is best played blind, so you can experience it as naively as possible. The game has a strong narrative plot, so spoilers will reduce the quality of the experience. It's fair to say though that most reviews are fucking telling people everything, so I'm going to assume everyone knows something about the game. So forgive me if there are large content gaps in this review. I want to try and tell you what I think, and at the same time try and tell you as few factual details about the game as possible, as fucking contradictory as that sounds. Put it this way, I wouldn't fucking review the film Sixth Sense by saying, it's this fucking awesome film about this chump who doesn't realise he's dead. See my point? So here is my declaration of interests, so you know where I'm coming from. I have not beaten the game. I can only guess, but I'm more than halfway through. I'm playing on normal difficulty because I'm shit at video games. I am a slow learner. I'm playing on the PC because watching me use a console controller is like watching a monkey try and fly a fighter jet. I got the pre-order bonus, which if I remember correctly was a shotgun, some crafting crap, a med kit and a sandwich. The DLC Margrave shotgun appears to be functionally identical to the normal version, but visually is as pimp as fuck. Rather nicely done in my humble opinion. It's pimped up enough to feel special, but not so pimped up you feel like an actual fucking pimp. I didn't find my first in-game shotty for a while, so having the Margrave from the start did give me an advantage. The shotgun is a bit of a fucky weapon in Prey, but if you had a choice between bashing shit in the head with a wrench or using a shotty, you know what I'd choose. Since I'm declaring my interests, biases and general all-round prejudices, I guess I'd better be honest about Bethesda and Todd Howard, because I've been accused of being biased in the past. It's fair to say that I think Todd Howard is the living embodiment of a fucking god, and if he blew his nose on a pair of shit-stained underpants and flicked them in a trash can, I would dive straight in to retrieve them, gently brush them against my face and sniff them, and inhale deeply so that his soft aroma could permeate my very being. I would then preserve them as a holy relic for the future betterment of humankind. I could be described as slightly biased. So even though Prey was published by Bethesda Softworks and had nothing to do with Bethesda Game Studios and Todd Howard, let's just say that I'm such an uncritically thinking fanboy that I've been forcibly removed from several gaming stores for standing there licking the game boxes which had the word Bethesda on them in any fucking way, shape or form. So as you can now understand, because this game was published by Bethesda Softworks and had nothing to do with Todd Howard, it was a cheap opportunity for me to trick you all into thinking that I'm professional, unbiased and impartial. And I was all psyched about hating on this game with great vengeance and furious anger, so I could at least hold one game in the air and say, look at me, I'm not a fanboy. I even had my lines prepared in advance. Shit like, this is BioShock in space, and this is a mix between BioShock and some other random game. I was wearing my hate goggles, I'd snapped on my latex serial killer gloves, and I was starting up my chainsaw, ready to get stuck the fuck in. Then to my fucking absolute dismay I discovered, it was not what I was expecting, and it was actually rather good. Retro-futuristic Art Deco furniture does not alone make a BioShock in space game. Yes, it has the old BioShock combat similarities, e.g. it's not just about shooting and you get a wrench, you get the old Nectar mod things and special abilities, but those generic game mechanics does not make this BioShock. In the same way, Battlefield isn't The Division just because you can aim down sights. In fact, it's much more of a puzzle-based sci-fi game than a shooter. If we're going to stick with the theme of cheap mash-up comparisons, I would say it's more like Portal meets Doom with shitty guns. Right then, now we've got the lazy, cliched comparisons out of the way, let's strip this granny naked and find out if the tits sag. So let's set the scene. You're a dude, or a dudette, in a sci-fi plot. Therefore, there is an inciting incident. You hear Twilight Zone music in your head and suddenly realise everything is not what it seems. To some degree, the party started without you, and now you have to find out what the fuck happened and what the shitting lord is going on now. You engage your wits, problem solving, and the occasional bit of ultra violence to negotiate your way through this RPG shooter kind of puzzler, exploring, being confused, and shitting your knickers as you go. The story is fairly good. To say that Prey is derivative of other games is both true and not meant as a criticism. You can clearly see it had lineage, and there are aspects of the game that are clearly legacies from previous games like Fallout, Dishonored, Bioshock, System Shock, Deus Ex, to name just a few. There is a ton of influence of sci-fi films and books too, everything from Alien to Blade Runner. Let's just say this game wasn't invented in a vacuum. But whilst it draws on a myriad of influences, you never feel like it's ripping something off. Although that whole wrench as your primary melee weapon gig is getting a bit fucking old now. How about a hammer, an ice pick, a fucking baseball bat, a screwdriver, a power drill? Oh yeah, I could work some serious magic with a power drill. Just enough with the fucking wrenches. Get over it for fuck's sake. The story is really quite compelling. There were literally moments where I thought I had a grasp of what was going on, then found emails and thought, you have got to be shitting me. At certain points, the game throws a few curveballs at you and you realise things are not what they seem. It's not fucking Asimov, but by sci-fi video game standards, it's definitely second shelf from the top. So let's talk about how engaging it is. Broadly speaking, you quest, explore, problem solve, and try and clear out the aliens as you pursue the main storyline. The aliens are properly scary shit at times. The small ones that can mimic objects are not particularly dangerous, but the fact that when you're searching a room, any item might be a dirty alien skank waiting in hiding keeps you on the edge of your seat. The environmental depth is really rich. There are books, emails and clues that help you backfill events as you try and work out exactly what level of sci-fi fuckery has transpired and what the fuck you are supposed to do about it. Some of the magazines and book references flesh out the backstory of crew members, others don't directly affect the game but mention philosophical concepts that hint at what is going on. There are doors to hack, computer terminals to unlock by playing Find the Password, and you can use security terminals to locate your quest objectives. It feels like a holistic environment, and I didn't encounter any fake door syndrome or abandoned locations left uncreated because of developer time constraints. There is a fuck ton of backstory in the environment. Reading emails, books and magazines do a great job of adding depth to the experience. And I felt a bit like a detective arriving after the party was over and was now working out the events of the evening that I missed. I found myself approaching new areas exactly how I would if I were there. I wouldn't dash in because reckless assault would cost health and resources, and in many scenarios, a properly vicious skull fucking. I would scope things out and try and come up with a half-baked plan. I'm sure better players than me can just run and gun this game, but I found myself going full thief and thinking shit through before engaging, and I enjoyed doing it that way. I found myself working out all sorts of batshit crazy methods to reach obscure places to grab loot and explore. I'm not even sure it's all intentional, but the game mechanics let you pretty much get anywhere as long as you have the gumption, the goo gun, and the imagination. My only criticism, and I'm not the first person to point this out, is the set design. Maybe I missed the fucking memo, but it would appear that Art Deco set design is now the default style for retrofuturism in video games. Don't get me wrong, it's beautiful. I really like the Art Deco aesthetic. As a default style for retrofuturism, it works perfectly. I fucking love it. But I fucking love pizza, and I wouldn't want to eat pizza morning, noon and night forever. Okay, bad example, I could quite happily do that. Maybe chocolate is a better example. If you've ever been stuck somewhere and the only food available is a candy vending machine, you'll know what I mean. Eventually, even the nicest thing can become sickly. I like this style, but I hope this isn't the default style for the next fucking decade, for fuck's sake. It's like the film Alien. For the next 10 years, all sci-fi movies defaulted to that futuristic grunge set design by default. There's a word for that style. First person to link it in the comments gets a cookie. The sound is done well and adds to the tension. Sure, There are some cheap jump scares, but a lot of it's excellent. Consider this. You're checking out a dark tunnel. You've already seen a flash of a mimic in the distance and it's scuttled away. You know any single bit of crap on the ground might be the little fucker in disguise waiting to jump out on you. So you're creeping down the corridor, you've just cut up 3 nappies and wrapped them around your privates with duct tape and your arse is on DEFCON 1. Then the bulkhead next to you starts to creak. I'm a sucker for this kind of contrived tension, and if you are too, play this in the dark at night and you will shit yourself. Probably metaphorically, perhaps literally. Let me know how it goes, but no need to link photos. I have a tendency to really over-fixate during tense moments in video games. I practically press my face up to the screen and stop breathing. Needless to say, this game played me for a sucker. My only criticism of the sound is that some of the jump scares seem to be geographically located and not procedural. So if you're fucking around doing something that means you run over the same spot 3 or 4 times, the creepy music becomes a bit hilarious as it triggers repeatedly. Not game breaking, just a bit fucking cheesy. There are loot and scavenging mechanics, and a really ingenious recycling mechanism for gathering crap and turning it into usable materials for crafting. You can upgrade your weapons either by finding or crafting weapon upgrade kits, although it's worth noting that there's not really that much gun porn in the game. It's more like a classic FPS game. There's a selection of different guns. Once you find one, it's added to your inventory, and there's not many lying around. It's only worth keeping and upgrading one of each. It's basically like being in a video game from the early 2000s. Just remember, really think about the skills and abilities. I don't want to give you any spoilers, so I'm not going to be specific. But when it comes to getting into places, getting up to places, and generally moving around, there are lots more ways to do it once you really look at your skills. Wink fucking wink. You're probably smarter than me. I'm confident you'll figure it out. This is a first-person puzzler, for fuck's sake. Think wisely with your perks. The environment is your friend or your enemy, depending on the choices you make. And that comment runs a little deeper than I'm prepared to expand on. One area where I think the game failed was that fucking hacking minigame. It's fucking annoying. I don't mind them normally, but normally they are primarily a test of brain power, with a little reflexes thrown in. This is pure reflexes with a fucky control system. It's like having an interview for a dungeon master, and one of the tests is how good they are at rugby. The skills required don't align with the in-game purpose. It's a hacking minigame that is based solely on reflexes. This makes no sense. I have to admit that although the game is very engaging on many levels, there is a definite downward curve. I think it's because the enemies often seem to be getting tougher as fast or even faster than your character levels up. The game is like an arms race, where you're constantly lagging slightly behind. I never really got that sense of mastery. Maybe it's just my shit skills, but I think maybe the effort-reward ratio is a bit off. Remember, I was playing it on normal, for fuck's sake. This game must stamp your balls flat on the hardest setting. At times, the game started to feel like the drill instructor in Full Metal Jacket. However well you do, more obstacles will be thrown in your way, just for the fuck of it, just to make you tougher. Only, I didn't sign up for that shit. So, how does the levelling system work? Well, rather than an XP system, you improve your character twofold. As you advance, you upgrade your weapons and equipment, making it more powerful, or getting new utility. The main levelling mechanic is neuromods, which you use to unlock talents and skills. You both find and eventually craft these as well. Neuromods are mechanical injectors that you jam in your motherfucking eye socket. Brilliant idea. If you don't like going to the dentist because they inject you once in the mouth, imagine being injected in the fucking eyeball twice at the same time. I bet that delivery system would prove highly marketable. You basically have talent trees, and each talent or level of talent requires a certain amount of neuromods to purchase. There are hard choices to be made, especially as higher level perks regularly cost 6 to 8, so they ain't cheap. Without giving too much away, my advice would be this. Always try and hold a few neuromods in reserve. You might come across a problem you can't solve and realise that buying a certain perk will bail you out of the situation. Get the recycling perk 9 AM day 1. You'll be spending the whole game recycling trash. It's kinda equivalent to 20% XP bonus, because more recycling junk equals more neuromods and upgrades. My tuppence worth on this is recycling and crafting is a core game mechanic, so it won't hurt to invest a few points in your inventory capacity. On a couple of occasions, I ended up backtracking to empty the shit out of my bags, and this involved a loading screen. At this point, I just thought, fuck this, and invested some neuromods right there and then. Similarly, repairing and fortifying gun turrets and robots means you have friends. As they say, the third rule of gunfighting is bring all your friends with guns. So investing in related skills is a safe bet. Also, given that it's a game where you spend a lot of time sneaking around in the dark, investing in sneak and sneak attacks is a safe bet too. Well, let's talk about combat. One of the most striking things about the combat is the mimics. They might not do much damage, but holy fuck, they're slippery little cunts. They move fast, dodge, shapeshift to assume the appearance of inanimate objects, and generally give you the sensation that you can feel eyes on the back of your head wherever you go. This keeps you wound up pretty fucking tight, because the most seemingly harmless objects in a room might turn out to be an alien face fucker waiting to beat on you or jab you in the mouth with its alien space penis. I enjoyed the combat a lot more at the start of the game. You get a few basic weapons very early on. The wrench is your go-to skull cracker of choice, a shotgun and pistol come soon after. Dealing with low-level mobs is pretty straightforward and fun. You also get a goo gun that ejaculates blobby jizz that freezes into large football-like clots of hard expanded foam jizz, I guess. This is great for freezing enemies, but it's also a utility tool for blocking holes, creating ladders and paths along walls, and a host of other things I probably haven't figured out yet. For some reason, I always seem to have plenty of ammo for this. It doesn't actually do any damage itself, but the goo gun certainly facilitates a lot of violence. The basic guns early on are very satisfying, even though the game suffers from the shotgun fallacy, which basically means the shotgun was modelled so that the buckshot comes out of the barrel with a spread like a fucking blunderbuss, spreading in a massive wide cone like a kid spitting out a mouthful of popcorn. The pellets then magically evaporate after about 10 feet. The reality is that even an unchoked shotgun will get all pellets on a chest-sized target at 30 feet, and a choked shotgun can do even better. In Prey, the shotgun becomes fucking useless at anything beyond close range. You practically have to run up and stick it in the enemy's mouth. Don't get me wrong, it's very satisfying. It's just not very fucking practical having a ranged weapon that only functions well at close to melee range. As the game progresses though, the ammo shortages bite, the combat gets a bit less straightforward. Sure, you can craft more ammo, but it eats into the same stock of resources you need to make other important shit. It seemed obvious to me that the game is trying to encourage you to use non-standard combat means to defeat your foes, which is fine, but as the enemies got tougher and I collected more high-end, fucky weapons, I got a strong sense that the whole game is designed to avoid giving you decent direct damage weapons. It almost feels contrived at times, like the game was now forcing me to use other means. I love the concept behind the gameplay. There are many clever and ingenious ways to defeat the game without resorting to pure violence. You have choices in how you deal with situations, but eventually I just thought, hang on you cunts, you're just deliberately making it fucking hard to use guns. Then it suddenly didn't feel like a choice at all. It frankly started to feel like when someone jacks up the tax on booze to force people to drink less. Even if the tactic works, it's still just going to fuck people off and they feel robbed. Most of the guns are shitty mid-game. The ones that aren't shitty rape your tiny ammo supply, and nearly every weapon seems to be designed to counter a specific enemy type. I'm a very cautious player, and normally love game mechanics that let you avoid direct confrontation. But fucking Christ, when a pansy like me starts shouting at my monitor, just give me a fucking decent fucking rifle for fuck's sake, there is something slightly wrong. The single biggest problem with combat that I could see was that however well you handle a situation, there always seemed to be a process of trading damage during combat. You damage them, they damage you, you chug on a medkit, rinse and repeat. The lowest point for me in combat was when I realised that you could probably defeat the game by just spending all of your resources on wrench perks, the slow time perk, and a shit ton of medkits, and just bash and chug your way through the whole fucking game. I genuinely think it would be an efficient way to do it, because the weapons are largely a bit cruddy. What I would have given for an M41A pulse rifle with a over and under 30mm pump action grenade launcher. At one point I got really into repairing and pimping up the mechanical sentry guns and tactically positioning those to do my fighting for me. It worked really well, but involved so much running backwards and forwards repositioning them. I started to feel like those guys who stand outside hotels constantly repositioning the no parking signs so there's always a free space for the limos to pull up. So what about functionality and all that boring technical shite? In an age where half of AAA titles are broke-ass pieces of buggy shit at launch, this game ran like a peach, straight out of the box from day one. It's crashed twice, and on both occasions I was running video capture. That's it, no bugs, nothing. No offence to Bethesda, but as wonderful as their games are, they are the world leaders in bugs. This game, however, breaks the mould. For a port, it runs brilliantly. It runs like a console on PC. The graphics are a little bit plasticky, but since it runs so smoothly on max settings, I didn't give a fuck. Some of the menu controls are a little counterintuitive. The setup is that classic Dishonored affair. Gun is left mouse button, ability is right mouse button. PC shooter aficionados will find that going aim down sights is hardwired into your muscle memory, and you will constantly be spunking your abilities by accident with the right mouse button when your reflexes fire and you try an ADS with your guns. Can't be helped, I guess, but it would be nice to be able to gate it or turn it off sometimes, but I couldn't unassign it. There is no toggle run, which isn't the end of the world, I guess. It just meant I had to occasionally pause the game to have a quick toot on my crack pipe. The system of flagging up and showing you keypad security codes when you mouse over them, if you know them, saves you a lot of fuckery looking through notes, and was an intuitive idea. The save system is a bit retarded. You have a finite amount of save slots, and the oldest one is always down the bottom, so you have to constantly scroll down for it. It's some real 90s shit, but will only cost you a few seconds of your life per hour. Also, you can't rebind quick save or quick load without editing the game file manually. This clashed with my video capture hotkey, so every time I absent-mindedly press record or stop, I fucking reloaded this shit-sucking game from the last quick save. This was about as fun and relaxing as giving yourself paper cuts on your eyeball. The hacking minigame works fine if you only use the standard WASD setup. Long ago a friend taught me about using a different keybind setup, which after a few hours was set for life. It's also probably the single best explanation why I don't have repetitive strain syndrome. That and the fact that I'm an ambidextrous wanker. My fingers literally sit on the main keys I use for movement all the damn time. The downside is, the in-game minigame defaults to your assigned keybinds, so it's near impossible to win if you custom bind your keys. This is a massive flaw, and the hacking minigame should give you the option to use the cursor keys for fuck's sake. My keybinds make perfect sense to me in a three-dimensional environment when I'm on a horizontal plane looking forward. For all the reasons they work incredibly well for FPS, they coincidentally work horribly in a 2D top-down minigame. It was literally like playing a first-person shooter with a joystick turned back to front. Let that sink in for a minute. So let's wrap this up. The best compliment I can give this game is this. I plan to play it for 5 to 6 hours, then crack off a quick 10-minute review telling you all how it was a lazy fucking Bioshock clone and that Bethesda should be ashamed of itself. I ended up playing it for a day and a half straight. It's not without its flaws, but it's a solid game and worth getting if it's your kind of thing. I think this game will appeal more to certain types of players. If you have a Dark Souls mindset, like hard challenges and never give up despite the odds, I reckon you will like it. Personally, I'm more like an airport sniffer dog. I like there to be a regular supply of dog treats flowing as I do the work. Work me for more than 10 minutes without a dog treat and cuddles, and I'm just going to piss on a suitcase and fuck off to the runway to play Dodge the Jumbo Jet. For me, the kill shot was when I spent 30 minutes killing a really tough group of mobs, patched up my blistered arse, then walked about 10 fucking feet around the corner, only to see another fucking group I had to deal with. At this point, The desire to reveal the rest of the storyline was outmatched by the sheer shag factor of having to do the same shit all over again, only with less resources. Just to get to a fucking door. Which by now, I wasn't that interested in getting to. Fuck your door, you can keep it. Players made of tougher stuff than me will love this shit. Frankly, I just felt like sacking it and heading off for a wank and a nap. So let's score this up. Fear factor. I'm going to give this 2.5 adult nappies out of 5 for scare level. For lily-livered pansies like me, there are definitely moments when you will shit your pants. But if your idea of relaxation is consuming hallucinogenic drugs, sitting in a crypt, in the dark, chilling with a few hours of alien isolation, this game probably won't even make you blink hard. So don't bother putting a towel in your chair just yet. Firepower rating. I'm going to give this 1.5 BB guns out of 5. Most of the guns are either a bit shit, or not shit, but with poor ammo supplies. The weapons are largely enemy specific, rubbish, or tools for distraction or the manipulation of the environment. I would have sucked off an alien for a decent high caliber rifle. Christ, I would have sucked off 3 aliens and let them kiss me on the mouth for any fucking rifle. If your motto is guns, 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 this is not Doom. Gun porn rating. Piss poor. It's like trying to find a saucy picture in a tractor catalogue. If you like gun porn, jog on. There's nothing to see here. Plot. I like a bit of sci-fi. I don't have a Starfleet uniform or speak fucking Klingon, but I know the difference between a Star-Lord and a Dick Lord, and I found the story interesting and engaging. Yeah, it's a veritable mishmash of old sci-fi narratives, Frankenstein, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, and all the rest, but it works well and meshes together. So I'm going to rate it like this. If this game was a movie, I'd say it was, metaphorically, Aliens 3, because it's a solid delivery with a great pedigree that satisfies. Sure, it's derivative of lots of other things that came before it, but nevertheless, it's a sound bit of entertainment. It's not as original as Alien, not as entertaining as Alien 2, but it still has its shit together, and it's a league above Alien vs Predator. Some games are good because of their originality. Some games are shit because of their lack of originality. This game is not original, but it's good, because it draws a little bit from so many fucking sci-fi books, films and video games that the end product ends up being worth investigating. Good luck, and happy hunting.